You guys, we are back. It has been a hot minute and a half, and I will fill you in on all the things in a different episode. We have some exciting things coming up, but we're going to kick things off with one of my favorite Hallmark actors, Mr. Benjamin Ayres, as we talk about all things Romance University.
Just right into it. Recording in progress. No, wait, is that the better angle? Is it better this way?
uh, yeah, I think it's wider on the screen a little bit.
Yeah, okay, great. Hi.
Hi, nice
How
to
are you
meet
doing
you.
today? Nice to meet you too. Wendy, right?
Wendy.
I go by Benjamin. Ben, I mean, sorry for this podcast. My name
Got
is
it.
Ben.
Um,
Wendy,
I'm
where are you?
I'm in Barrie.
Oh, you're like close.
Yeah, I'm like an hour north of you.
There you go. We were just driving through Barrie. We went up skiing at the friends or members at the Heights, which is a ski hill by Horseshoe, and we went up
Yeah.
there over the weekend. Big snowfall. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm like 20 minutes from Horseshoe.
Yeah. So we do. We bought passes. My girls do snowhawks. Snowhawks is a big. It's like ski lessons every weekend. They usually get bussed up, but we all got passes this year to Mount St. Louis Moonstone. And then some nights, what we'll do on the weekend is we'll either spend a night in Barrie at one of the hotels, or really at the one with the pools and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it seems to be like the stopover town before cottage country.
Hmm.
So weekends are just, especially during the summer, like anytime after 10 a.m. on a Friday, you just want to avoid the highway anywhere near
Right.
here. I just take
Well,
the side routes.
so I'm from a town called Kamloops,
Mhm.
a little city in British Columbia, and it's the same thing. A lot of people know it because they're like, "Oh yeah, I stopped there to get gas on my way through to Vancouver."
Yeah, it's like the last Walmart before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I've been such a huge fan of yours for so long.
Aw, thanks.
Takes me back to Mr. Tanner days from Vampire Diaries.
Wow.
Um,
Interesting story. They shot the pilot of that was shot in Vancouver, which is where I was living at the time. And I remember like, oh, you have an audition for the Vampire Diaries. It wasn't a thing yet. I didn't even know it was like books or anything. And I'm like, awesome, as a vampire? They're like, no, you're gonna be a teacher. And I'm like, that's a werewolf? And they're like, no, he's just a teacher. He's like a history teacher. I'm like, oh, okay. Auditioned, booked that role, shot it in Vancouver, and then oftentimes it was the pilot episode, which is the first episode of the show. Kind of forgot about it, and then I think it was like 6 months later they announced that the show had been picked up, but they moved it to Atlanta. And at that point, we'd moved to Toronto, and I was on a series here, a half-hour comedy CTV series. I guess I can actually reference these shows now because
that's
you'll know them.
right.
It was called Dan for Mayor,
Hmm.
and they had called and asked if I'd be willing to fly down to Atlanta. They're like, it'd be like 4 episodes. You'd be around for the summer, and then your character gets bitten. And I'm like, and then I turn into a vampire. Like, no, you just die.
No, just done.
Yeah, I just done. Anyway, it was fun. Really great group of people. And, exciting to get to see all those actors sort of before that thing really took off. Like they had no idea, and they were all kind of buying their first cars, and just excited about the possibilities, but also a little nervous because they've been in that situation before, where that you just you never know if it's going to go past one season.
Yeah, well, I mean, Nina Dobrev was on Degrassi, which
So she
is
was on Degrassi. Yeah.
so
So
like
we
so
we
Canadian.
so okay. We bonded, of course, because we were both the Canucks down there. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So how? So what's your like? I don't speak to many Canadians that are doing podcasts about like Hallmark movies, and I don't know if that's kind of the main theme, but how did you come to be head over heels?
I so it actually I've been watching them my whole life. I mean, they've been around for as like longer than people realize. I'm 35.
Well,
So
okay, but
it's
yes and no, because I kind of say they've really only got popular like since the W network picked them up, and that's because I know because I feel like when I first started doing them, nobody in Canada really knew about them, or I'd say a Hallmark movie, and they're like, "What do you mean a Hallmark? Like the card company?" Like I'd have to really kind of explain what they were. So they haven't really been hugely popular
I
until
as
like the
soon as
last 5 years.
as soon as the internet came out, I was super guilty of doing the illegal thing of
Finding
streaming
them,
them
yes, yes.
online. I've always been a sucker for romance movies. It's just who I've been my whole life, and I think people don't realize how big they are in Canada. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the fan base is US, or a lot of the events and everything that happens are American. But like for example, me, I have Hallmark movie nights with my girlfriends, and we're like all in our 30s, and we get wine drunk and watch like six in a row, and it's a thing. It's There's a lot
So
of
we
us up
should
here.
talk, you know what? Because I really think there are, and I'm aware because I always joke if I ever want to get recognized, I just go to Costco. Inevitably, the employees, somebody said, like, I love your movies, and those little whispers. So, I was on a show called Saving Hope for a long time. And in shooting that, because that was interesting, because it would air like every Thursday night. So on Friday, if I was out, inevitably somebody would be like, last night's episode was amazing. Just a little whisper over the apple aisle or something. Um, but the Hallmark thing has been new, but I've really been aware that there are a lot of them. And when I go to, like, let's say, Downey's pumpkin patch or whatever, kind of in the fall, I'm always like, at least this year, I was like, we should throw some type of Hallmark thing here. Like, there's multiple actors in Toronto. We could kind of organize a thing and do our own small. And like, I actually think it'd be really fun because you're right, it's very US based and the conventions are all happening in the US. And it'd be nice to kind of bring it up here a little bit and kind of bring everybody together because I just did my first one in December in New Jersey with That's for Entertainment. And it was,
The Christmas con.
yeah, I was not prepared for how amazing the community is and just how beautiful it was to get to be there with everybody. I think upwards to like 15,000 people, and to get to see them all in a big space like that and get to talk to everyone and take photos and just kind of hang out. I felt like kind of hanging out with a bunch of friends. So I would like to figure that out. How can we do it here? We're going to plan it.
It's so funny that you say that. So I went to Rama Drama in
Oh, okay. Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
I road tripped to Florida by myself um,
Wow.
for the week. Like I did it over a week, and then the event was over the weekend, and then I drove back. And that's sort of what kicked off the podcast because I met so many people. I became really good friends with Brittany Bristow, like instantly. And there was a few other Canadians there. There was like 3 token Canadian girls at this Rama Drama event, but everybody else I met was American. And we were talking, we're like, we need a Canadian convention. Like there has to be a Canadian convention because the fan base is so huge up here. And it's like so many of them are filmed here. Like there's so many little
Well, yeah,
places. They're
but
all filmed in
between
Ontario.
they're actually,
Well,
I would
Ontario,
say,
BC.
yeah, 90% BC actually, 10% I would say Ontario because I've done, I don't know, 14 of them now, and I haven't shot one here. I
Oh,
always kind of
really?
I'm always in Vancouver, so and they don't shoot many in Toronto. They're kind of in North Bay, Ontario.
Yeah, they
They
do.
might shoot
Barry's
some
been
near
blocked
Barrie.
off a few times. Like
Okay.
our main street downtown, especially during the summer and fall, is blocked off like every other weekend for
No,
filming content.
I'm not saying it's not Hallmark, but it's there are other kind of low budget MOWs that end up on networks as well because a lot of those get shot actually in Kamloops and Kelowna and areas kind of where I'm from out in BC where I would love to go shoot a Hallmark movie, but most of the Hallmark ones, Hamilton and North Bay.
I know a friend of mine works in Ottawa and worked on I think 3 or 4 that got picked up by Hallmark last year.
Right, so that's great. So she kind of shot them, filmed, and then you sold them after.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
that's a popular way of going about getting them
yeah.
onto
So
the network.
it's picking up around here, and like we have so many little tiny towns like Collingwood and Blue Mountain that like look like little Hallmark villages.
I know it's great.
I'm like, I'm telling you, it would blow up around here. I can immediately think of 50 women in their 30s that would be like on it in a hot second. I own an adult dance studio here in Barrie, so I deal with women. Like that's all I deal with, like 150 women a week who at least 50 to 75% of them love these movies. So I'm like,
Right.
that alone is like, you got like 75 people there right off
There's
the bat.
75 right there. Maybe we'll think about. Let's talk about trying to organize a little Barry convention.
I think we should. I think it would
Yeah.
be a big hit.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, let's get to work on that. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, see ya, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
The
one of the
main
things,
reason. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I know you want to talk to me about some
Oh
stuff, but
no, honestly, I'm
I,
open to anything that you want to
you're
talk
like,
about.
no,
You
actually, I don't. You're like, I don't want to talk to you about stuff.
give me
I
all
like
the
people
things.
interviewing me. I like to get to know who I'm talking to. So
Oh, okay.
there's going to be a lot of people that don't know who you are. So we know a little bit kind of how you got into it. You love Hallmark movies. Um, and so how many you've done now? How long, like, basically you did Rama Drama, came back and started this. And have you done any kind of podcasting before or journalism
Um,
or?
no, not really. I so long story short, in the last few years, like I've sort of been through a lot of stuff. Um, Another reason I love Hallmark movies so much is so I'm a cancer survivor, and during my treatment, they were like the predictable love that I needed in my life whenever I was like just sitting on the couch with a bucket for days on end. They got me through that. They really did. And I know it sounds a little cheesy, but like they just are such feel good movies and give me zero anxiety because I always know what's going to happen. um,
Right.
and they filled me with so much love during like such a dark time. And since then too, I also was diagnosed with MS.
Wow. You've
So
gone through a lot.
um dealing with that too, I'm still like that's pretty fresh. So
Right.
even dealing with that, I have some dark days still, and like these movies are really like my comfort place.
Mm.
Um and during all of these things, I was just kind of like, why not just do all the things I want to do? Like, there's absolutely no reason that I can't just like start a podcast and talk to people that inspire me and fill me with joy. And they're like, why can't I do that? So I just like came back from Ramadan and I was like, okay, let's go. And
Good
I
for
think
you.
I booked like 5 interviews in the first month. And then I got pretty sick. So I took a few months off just to like get my body back to where it needed to be. And then a couple weeks ago I had a stroke. So it's been it's been a bit of a
Holy
wild
moly.
ride. It was MS related, so it's like I'm okay, but so it's just been sort of all over the place. And then that sort of woke me up again to be like, no, I've got to start prioritizing the things that like make me happy, and just making sure I'm making time for me and those things, and talking to the people who fill me with joy and the people who inspire me just like fills me with that like little bit of extra energy that I need. So as much as it's nice to share that with other people, it's also selfishly for me. So
Boy, do I wish we were not talking through a screen so I could just reach over. I just want to hug you right now. That you've gone through so much. That's wow. I mean, I don't know what to say except I'm so happy we're chatting right now and I've met you and that you're obviously gotten through so much of it. But I can't imagine every day must be must be a lot emotionally.
it definitely
It
can
can
be.
be, yeah.
Yeah, I try to really take advantage of the good days,
Hmm.
um, and focus on that as much as I can. I'm grateful. My mom retired, so moved up to Barrie, and she lives with me, and so she takes
Wow.
care of me as I need it. And I was grateful she was here because actually last year she was diagnosed with breast cancer, so we that was her third round, like her third cancer bout. So,
Wow.
but she's cancer free now, and we're like best friends. So I'm grateful to have her here as well.
I guess
Um,
in some ways that's been nice, not nice, but the fact that she has gone through it and it's something that's in the family that you can at least, it's not like out of nowhere and you're like, how do we even cope with it? Your mom was able
yeah,
to
it's
give
like
you strategies and you've been
again, we've
around it.
got this. Like,
Yeah, right.
but no, she's so wonderful, and she loves the movies just as much as I do. So, it's
Well, a friend of mine in Kamloops had reached out because a friend of ours, a mutual friend, he's going through some treatment right now, and he's in the hospital and he's watching these movies nonstop. So we sent him, like it was the only thing I sent a hoodie that just says "Get well," and he wanted my signature on it, which we sent him, and it's like um, a tiny small gesture that could make him feel good while he's going through some dark days, watching movies that are uplifting, and as you said, you know you know how it's going to end. It's kind of the same. We're kind of telling the same story over and over. I like to think of it now. I used to it's kind of like one long television series, episodic television series where it's like tuning into Law and Order. It's been going on forever. It's Grey's Anatomy. It's been going on for so long, and every episode you sort of know what you're going to get into, and it's kind of like an old school studio system where you're going to have all of the same actors that you love going to get continue to play those different versions of the same type of character, and like an anthology series where it's just being told again, but now with some more of your favorite actors. And I didn't really know that going in, that you could do more than one of these movies, let alone numerous in a year, and that the fans really love it. And I think it's for that reason. And what makes it so unique is that doesn't really happen on any other network. And I think we've been able to. I understand the comfort we now can bring people, because I now feel comforted from everybody as well, having met them and having conversations with people like yourself. And it's been, and we'll get to it, but it's part of the reason I started this whole thing.
Yeah, no, it truly is such a special community, and like everybody welcomes everybody. When I went to drama, like you're talking hundreds of people who didn't know each other, and by the end of the weekend we were all like crying saying goodbye. And
Uh,
it's such an incredible. I wanted to go to Christmas Con, but my company had a show that weekend, so I couldn't go. um but it was like I'm impatiently waiting for more dates to be released, because of course the next Christmas Con in June I also have a show, so it's just one of those things.
right.
But it is just so magical. And there's those people who are like, oh, they're cheesy, awful movies, and I was just like, they have done wondrous things for people, and they make people so happy. And it's just like, we call it like it's our own little special positive cult. Like it really
Yeah.
it's
It totally
yeah.
is that too. You're right. Because it does really have that feeling where if you're not on the inside, you're kind of not even aware it exists. And then
Yeah.
once you become aware of it, you either fall down the rabbit hole, or you kind of just, and I think that's what happens is, if you just stumble upon one scene as you're flicking through, the channel, it could come off as cheesy looking or feeling or sounding or whatever you want it to be. But I think you have to fully immerse yourself in the world to understand it, and you got to give it a little bit of time. And it depends on where you are in your life, you know, what you have gone through, or I find there's the generational impact of you can sit there and watch it with your grandma and your mom and the daughter, like you get their son, whatever, but like an entire three generations can watch together without feeling that they're going to be offended, or there's going to be anything that's you really got to get into big conversations about, which I have to get into with my daughter all the time, when it's all of a sudden just like watching Stranger Things, or like there's stuff where I'm like,
Yeah, no,
come
it's
watch my movies.
yeah, they're always family friendly. And like
Yeah.
Hallmark really is, like, even in the last couple of years, they've really stepped their game up with like trying to do different locations and like playing with the storylines a little bit and making small changes, which is nice to see every once in a while. Like a movie just hits you a little bit harder than it would
Hmm.
normally. I actually I interviewed Cindy Busby, and
Love Cindy.
she's so lovely. And she was the lead in a movie where the lead got diagnosed with MS.
Oh wow.
So I could sort of like, it's
That hits
so,
home.
it does. And it's like, to see that in a Hallmark movie where it's like, I know again it sounds cheesy, but like finding someone who will accept the fact that someone is going to be going through that is so
Hmm.
lovely for me to see, because of course those things cross your mind too. I'm single at 35, and it's like, with
Right.
all of these issues, is anyone going to love me? And then you see that on screen, and it just sort of gives you that like little warm and fuzzy glimmer of hope on the inside. So
Aw,
it's they're just literally the best. Like I think it's like my life revolves around my dance studio and then like the Hallmark community. Like those are my things.
beautiful. Okay, first of all, I didn't expect to come on here and maybe shed some tears.
I'm
So,
sorry. I almost did, but I kept it together. I don't know if you can see my
no, I
face
can
is
see,
getting a little red.
no, but that's the problem is I can feel it because I'm an empath. So I'm like, she's pushing it down, and that's what good acting is. Because oftentimes as an actor, and I don't know if you've dabbled in it, or like people are like, oh, you could like the instinct as an actor sometimes is to want to have your own catharsis and cry on camera and have this big teary moment. But in reality, what we do is we push it down and say, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then when we have a private moment, we'll kind of let it out into the pillow or whatever, or we'll allow by ourselves watching the movie for the emotion to come. But to be truly open and vulnerable and cry is scary. So instead we push it down and it will come up. But what happens is when I then see it, then I get emotional, right? It's like a yawn. We're having cry yawns right
I'm so sorry.
now. Don't apologize. Look, we're such Canadians. No, I'm sorry.
I'm so Canadian. So I saw a TikTok earlier. So I have a decent Hallmark loving TikTok following too. I have like 57,000 TikTok followers who
Wow,
all love Hallmark. So that I'm telling you, it's big. But I
cool.
saw one earlier where they were joking about Canadian buses and how when they're out of service, it says sorry on the back of the bus. Like,
That's
yeah.
so true, dude.
And when I
Yeah.
went to Rama Drama and I was saying sorry, they're all like, it's sorry. And I'm like, no,
Sorry,
it's
I
not.
know. I
No,
know.
it's not.
Well, so and it's, I hear, so, most of the Canadian actors, I'm going to show you something. This is something I actually haven't. So a friend made this shirt and as you know, we're going to get into the romance university stuff, but it's the alumni king. The thing, it was really cute. And she said, "Do you want anything on the back?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, do you know?" And this is all of this. There's lots of little inside jokes to all of the designs I come out with, but on all of the movies we do, the number one, usually 98% of the time, is the woman. So she's the number one. So, and this is what's referred to on the call sheet. So when you arrive to work, when you start, there's like the number one, the number two, the number three. You're going to work your way down, and it's sort of importance or who's on the screen the most. That type of thing. And number two is always the men. So I put a two on the back because it just reminds me of what I love about everything. Anyway, why did I bring that up right now? What was I talking about?
We were just talking about Canadians and sorry
Oh
and
yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So Canadians. So it's all so yeah. The number twos. That's what I was going to say because I wanted to tie it back to the number twos. The number twos are mostly Canadian. Most of the men are Canadian, and it all started kind of as a tax credit purpose. These movies are not that expensive to shoot. They're lower budget. They have a pretty good budget for the number one and two. But if you hire a Canadian, there's a big tax refund available. So it kind of started by, well, you kind of have your star come in, and then you kind of bring one of these Canadian actors on who's done something of substantial. Like for me, I had done Saving Hope. Casting director Penny Perry really liked the show. She reached out to my team. Does Ben want to come do a Hallmark movie? And I was like, again, what's a Hallmark movie? Did the one Love by Chance. Then they got a call to come back and do Falling for Vermont. And I was like, they want me again? And then I was like, and then there was a mystery wheel. And I was like, but I've already done two. I was still kind of learning the whole thing. And then more and more I kind of got into it. I realized I'm like, oh, how come it's like all these guys I know that are doing these movies? And that's kind of what I started to realize. And all going back to the stories and stuff, it's like we have all had to learn very early on once you kind of act because we're acting for US audiences to kind of like clean up our Canadian, to get rid of our Canadian accents. And we'll have them in real life, but on camera in particular, you'll definitely get somebody to quickly. It was a bit too about, not about. It's like they can hear the Canadian leaking in. It doesn't happen as much anymore, but I remember when I first started, like Smallville and way back in the day, getting kind of like called out on specific names. I was like, am I not saying that in an American? Like I like because it was just too Canadian sounding.
That's yeah,
Anyway,
everybody when I went to Florida, everybody knew I was Canadian. And I like I couldn't figure it out. And they're like there's like seven words that you say that like
it's a
instantly we know that you're Canadian because of the way that you say them. And then I'm like also like my background is British and Scottish. So
right.
after a couple drinks, I like have a bit of an accent because I had one till I was like 10 or 11 because of both
Oh
my
wow.
parents. So after a couple drinks, and then they're just like, I thought you were Canadian, not English.
Right.
A little bit of both.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's but yeah, no,
Well,
it's
and it's the
Canadian.
Scottish accent that we've actually kind of because that's come from like Nova Scotia into that way where it's the out and about that's kind of a bit more clipped and comes up as opposed to out and about, which is kind of the longer vowels, which is sort of what we've had to kind of lose.
Well, I mean, Canadians are just superior.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, before I forget about all the questions I wrote
Oh
down.
wait, do we have questions? I thought we are just hanging out chatting. Questions. Okay.
Well, not there's
What
not a
music are
ton.
you listening to right now? Okay.
Oh, I'm a country girl.
Are you?
Morgan Wallen's new album just came out, so it's like I'm binge watching. I'm binge listening in the car like constantly.
Awesome. Okay.
So Romance University.
Hmm.
It started. I briefly did some research.
Okay.
It basically just started with some like buttons and hoodies, and you were like here, and then it just exploded. Sort of break that down a little bit more.
Well, that's it. Okay, what's your next question? So we got that one out of the way. You've answered it. Essentially, I had this idea because a friend of mine, so my wife went to Queen's University. She got her MBA there, and she's got this hoodie that she wears that has kind of the crest and the thing. And I was in Vancouver, and other friends went to Harvard, and they had a hoodie. And I just there was something about the crest I couldn't get out of my head. And at one point, I thought to myself, Ivy League crest. It'd be kind of fun to do kind of a play on that and but do like a Hallmark kind of romance sort of crests. And that was it. And then that sat in my mind for a while, but I could not get it out of my head. And it just sort of grew into I was like, well, how could I design a crest? I don't even know how to design a crest. But it turns out the driver, so oftentimes on these movies, you're assigned a driver. That driver has walkie-talkie that's linked to production. So they know where you are at all times. They'll pick you up in the morning. If there's traffic, they know where you are. So you're not on a phone and it's a safety issue and all these things. The driver on the last movie, I asked, we get to talking. And of course, I get to know him quite well because he's the first person I see every morning and the last person. And he says, when I don't do this, I'm a graphic designer. And I was like, oh, dude, I got this really cool idea. If I send you some kind of ideas, like examples, I'll just kind of draw it. Can you kind of make it something that could potentially go on a shirt or like a button or something like that? And he's like, yeah, like I can do that. And he turned it around quite quickly. And this is something I actually forgot about till just the other day. The producer on that movie on day one, I'd worked with him a bunch. Kevin Leslie's his name, and we do Chronicle Mysteries. And he walks up to me, he's like, "Ben, it's so good to see you." He gives me a big hug. He goes, "Here, let me give you this button." And he hands me a button, and it says "Stop the Fear." And I was like, "What is this? Did you make these?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What do you mean stop the fear?" He goes, "I don't know. Everybody's just scared of everything. I just figure, stop the fear." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "But where did you make the buttons?" And he's like, "Oh, there's like this button shop." And I was like, "Huh, that's kind of cool." And then now I have this button that he gave me, and just had the conversation with the drivers. I was like, that would actually be fun to make buttons on the, and it just kind of like it really grew quite organically into, well, maybe what I'll do is make a bunch of buttons and bring them to the convention because that would be fun. And I kind of just give them out because I found out I was like, yeah, it doesn't cost anything really to print them, and it would just be a fun little token of appreciation to people there. And then it grew quite naturally to like I'm gonna make a few hoodies for Taylor was in town and Nikki was in town and Rachel was in town. There's just a bunch of us kind of together, and I just made some hoodies and something because they were all like, "Oh, this is a really fun idea." But then it wasn't until I went to the convention and everybody saw the hoodie, like, "Well, I want one. How do I get one?" I was like, I don't know. I've only made four of them. You know, like I guess I could fly to Vancouver, make more, and then fly to your house, like bring them to the next convention. And then I couldn't stop thinking about, well, how do I supply these to a large number of people potentially? So I reached out to one supplier because I tried to do it from Vancouver, even though I was in Toronto, and it was very difficult to figure out import fees and duties and taxes and things. So I found a supplier in the US. I said, this is the design I have. You've got these hoodies. Can I work with you? And if an order comes, I send you the order, and then you kind of package it and send it. And, okay, great. So I figured out for the hoodies, and I just was like, this is a 2 day thing. I'll set up a little shop online, and I'm just going to sell some hoodies. And it just blew up. And then, from there, it's just really become this organic community growing thing. And we're all the alumni of it. Just has really turned into something quite beautiful. And I think really what it is for me is it's like an extension of the convention and an extension of the movies and the community that we build like we are right now. And um, it's just been really fun creatively for me to get to have something outside of acting that I'm passionate about. And because I have this window of time right now that, and I can sometimes get really focused on things. Um, it's just grown to, well, can you do t-shirts? Can you do tumblers? Can you do mugs? And I just keep trying to grow it so that people aren't only buying hoodies. And I was like, well, look, why don't I just create an online general store, which is ultimately, I'd love to open a real, I feel like I've become a Hallmark movie where I have opened a small town store online, and outside of just these products that would be fun to sell, what can we now do as a community of people that would also, as a group, we can do something good without, so it's not just, oh, I bought this product, but uh, as it was all kind of happening, I was like, well, maybe we can also give back to a community together. And it started with women's shelters in Toronto. My neighbor uh, is a social worker, and she kind of gave me some names of like 5 or 6 different ones. I did some research. I found the two that I wanted to donate to, and we went and donated and went in person on Valentine's, or sorry, it was my birthday. We went January 19th. We went and gave $4,000 to two different shelters.
Amazing.
And then that spun into like, well, maybe as Valentine's comes up, I can do something cool with Tyler, Paul, and Andrew. And then I was like, well, Andrew, why don't you pick something in LA? And we raised money, and he went and dropped off a $5,000 check on Valentine's Day. And now I'm going to do something with Chris Palaha. It's all very organic and just kind of happening in a way that's been exciting. But it's it's taken off. It's like there's that saying, where you just kind of jump off a cliff and build wings as you're falling, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I could have sat there forever and tried to figure it out, or I could just be like, well, I mean, I can figure out the hoodie part. Let's just sell those, and then just kind of see where it goes. But I'm still just kind of building wings as we fall, and but we're all kind of doing it together in a fun way.
That's it's so exciting, and people are stoked about it. Like every time I follow so many of the people I met at Rama Drama, and I feel like every single day I'm seeing somebody's story. They're wearing something, or they're drinking out of the mug, or they've got the tumbler, or they're sharing something. It's like it's everywhere, all over my social media, and it's so lovely to see too, because I know the shelters are local to me as well, like being Toronto, and I grew up in Scarborough, so it's it's so lovely to see that it's also helping like Canadian and Ontario and Toronto, because a lot of these things that we see based for Hallmark is all American. So,
Well,
and
and that was, I think, something I thought too is like it, because it is such an American thing. But I am living here right now. This is where I'm from. It's where I'm based. Toronto is where I'm based. And it felt, and again, it's a it was a very long winded answer of, you said, how did this happen? But that's step by step sort of how it just unfolded. And the fact that my neighbor's a social worker, and we got to talking around the time where I was like, well, what would I do with it if I was able to sell these hoodies and raise money? I was like, oh, well, that actually kind of makes sense. Women's shelter, like it just kind of unfolded in a very perfectly organic way. And I think that's why it doesn't feel like work for me right now, because if you're trying to control it too much and it has to be this or has to be that, then that's where a lot of frustration can come, because expectations aren't being met. So if I don't have any expectations and I just continue to allow it to be the malleable piece of clay it is without baking it and turning it into a hard thing, I believe that's a better way of going about it. And I think that's what, especially the support from A, the fans, and B, also the other actors have really reached out and and also have purchased a lot and worn it, and want to be involved in the community. And it's been very, very exciting. And it's another thing that brings us together as well, because oftentimes outside of the movies, the odd time we might be able to get together, but I've said it before, the men, we don't ever cross paths, because the convention, that was the first time I've ever talked to Andrew Walker and like in real life. I guess I saw him at dinner in Vancouver, but a lot of them I'd never met before. Like John Brotherton, awesome dude, never knew this guy. We're like buddies online. I sent him a bunch of stuff, and he's like, dude, I love the loungewear. I'm like, I'm gonna send you a black one. So there's like that kind of part of the community for me has been a lot of fun, outside of the connection I've now had with everybody, just part of the alumni that have been joining the ride over on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you said it was a long-winded answer. I think you literally answered all my questions, my next questions in your answer. So it kind of worked out anyways. Just means
Right,
that I don't
okay.
have to ask them now. Um, but I did read, I think it was an article with heavy.com where he said about 95% of the orders are from Americans. So I was like, we got to push this Canadian. I was like, there's no way. I'm like, we need some more Canadian
Okay.
representation.
So I'm trying to deal now with the producers, and I think, because there have been a few Canadians, obviously there's been lots that have ordered stuff, but we're not Amazon, so nothing is going to get there quickly, and it takes a while, the production of it. And now, I don't know if you saw, like, we gave away some shoes, and they're awesome, and I'm very
I wanted
excited. But
them.
those,
I wanted them so badly.
so,
And I
I
was
did
like,
too.
oh, I
When
was like, I
Dara
live in
posted them,
Chucks for like the moment the
well,
snow
and
melts.
that's so, again, this is another one of those things where I never would have thought, like, ooh, I should design Chucks when I came out with the hoodies. But I saw somebody walking down the street, and I was like, oh my God, that almost looks like the crest. What if I could come up with Chucks, but the thing on the side is the crest? This is amazing. So then I just posted a version of what could be the black ones. And somebody's like, well, gee, I don't like high tops too hot in the summer, or like all year round if they're down south. Fair enough. What about white ones, low top? And I was like, ooh, what if I do like high top black, low top white? Found a distributor, found a supplier, the thing. And usually I get everything shipped up here, but sometimes there's a real delay. So now I've kind of come up with this idea that what I'll do is have product testers, and then we ship stuff out and get them, and I kind of do fun little draws. And it's another thing that just brings the community together, and we can test everything out together, and it's like, okay, Dara and Kat, let us know what you think of the shoes. Is this something we should produce, or is it kind of not of quality? Because there have been items I've gotten where I'm like, honestly, I don't like the quality, so I'm not going to make it, because it's like just not as good. Like today, I just got this, which I was pretty excited about, because everybody's been wanting beanies, and when I got home, this had just arrived.
Oh,
And you know what? This is the only one we have. I'm going to send you this one. So
you
this
are?
one's gonna yeah, because you're gonna need it, because it's cold here. So I'm gonna send you.
Yeah.
You get me your address after, and I'm gonna send you the only one we have. And you let us know, because part of me wonders. I'm like, should we do just the crest bigger? Is the crest big enough? So like little things like that, I get it. I'm like, is the print quality good enough? Should I lose the Romance University and just have a big crest? So I'll send it to you. You let me know, warmer. It's also the color I wanted. I've been trying to find this color in like the hoodies and stuff, but I found it in the beanie, which I love. So send me your address after, and I'm gonna send this up to Barry. Maybe
I'm
I'll do,
like,
yeah.
I'm trying to compress the crying.
Yeah, I was literally like, oh, but now like, good, new product tester. There we go.
Yes. And I'm like, and
Yes,
it's today's cold. Yeah, it's been a night, like the weather around here has just been extra special
extra special. Well,
lately.
it was cold. Like this morning was really cold. In 2 days, because all the snow kind of melted there, because we had a huge, big dump, and then it got really warm, which I don't love because all that snow has got to melt quickly, and this basement's flood and all the fun stuff. But then today was freezing. I walked the girls to school, and I was like, oh man, it's
It's one of
really
those
cold
days
out.
where it's deceiving because it's so sunny, but it's like the coldest. It's like, yeah, it's good old Canadian where, and it was like
Yeah,
a few weeks ago we had like all four seasons in one day, and it's
yeah, I know.
like
I know, and it really did. It felt like it's all over. We're
there's
jumping
a
into spring.
there's a school right down the street from my house, and like 3 weeks ago there were teenagers walking by in shorts, and I was like, it's Canada. I
Yeah.
mean, in all fairness,
In all
it's
fairness, I do that because the gym I go to is not far from the house. So I'll walk the girls to school in the morning. I have all my stuff, and then I go to the gym, and then you kind of build up a sweat. So I'll walk home in my shorts, and there's a couple people I'll see, a couple old people that go out for walks every morning. I see them every morning, and they'll always make a comment. If I'm in my shorts, like, just coming from the gym, huh? Or if I got the pants on, they're like, you didn't go to the gym today? Or there's always got to make some comment because they're the ones who clock it every day because they're out for their walk at the same time. But
yeah.
even on cold days when you're so hot, you're like, it actually feels nice to be in shorts. But I'm one of those crazy freezing cold in my shorts and wearing my boots walking home.
Yeah, and we're only a few weeks away from socks and sandals season. So,
It's not far off, no.
yeah, next thing we're gonna blink and it'll be spring. We get spring for like 3 weeks and then it's gonna be summer.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm so excited. I'm like, we definitely still have cold weather and I will wear
Oh yeah, you'll
that
wear the
too.
beanie. Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, awesome.
very
Toque, which is what
Canadian.
we should call it. It's our
Yeah,
toque.
very
I know the
Canadian.
beanie is the American way. It's the toque. Get me a toque.
I think that's everything that I had, unless there was anything else that you want to share.
Um, no, there's nothing I want to share. I'm just happy. I mean, I'm really happy to get to meet you today. That's
I
what
am
I'm
so
really
like
happy.
this made my my month. It's been a rough like I had the stroke a couple weeks ago and I've only been back to work a few days. And then I'm having another procedure next week, so I'm out for 2 weeks again, and then
Oh wow.
I come back and then it's my company has show week. So I'm like, I just needed like a little pick me up. So
Well, and that's something that's easy to forget on my side of things, where I could be like, the interview, like honestly, I just say yes now to the interviews. And there was a time where I was always like, either A, I don't have anything to promote, and I feel like I need to be promoting something. But now I really think this is something I really like to talk about. But I listen to a lot of long form podcasts, and I realized it doesn't really like. I'm not here to sell anything, and I don't really need to. This, like the connection I just had with you today, is what I take away from this. Not like, oh, I got to spread Romance University or talk about the Hallmark movies. I'm not interested in honestly talking much about myself as it is. I'm a little bit private about a lot of stuff, but I get way more out of asking questions than I do answering them. And usually, I think that's what I've enjoyed so much about long form podcasts is that it allows us to get into really good conversations as opposed to what used to be kind of the interviews I used to get, which is like I've got 5 minutes with you. These are I have to be succinct and exactly this and like EPKs can be like that on set. They can be very stressful. You kind of got to hit all the points. Where I much prefer just a conversation and getting to know the person I'm talking to. So thank you for taking time today, and I really do appreciate you reaching out because
oh,
it meant a lot for me today too.
well, thank you. When I heard back from you, I think I did a small happy dance when I got your
No.
message back. So um it really did it filled me with a lot of love today. So
Oh,
I
awesome!
appreciate you very much for
Big hug,
sharing. Yes, virtual
big
hug, which is
hug.
what we did for 2.5 years anyways. a lot of virtual
exactly.
hugs, but
Yeah.
well, I was like, I will definitely send you my address.
Okay, do
Um,
that. Yes, and I will send this to you today or tomorrow. Okay.
Amazing. And then yeah, we'll chat about a Canadian Hallmark
Let's do
thing.
it. Yeah, I've even I joked. I remember telling Aaron one day. I was like, I should just say, I'm going to be at Yorkdale Mall at noon on this day. Just be like, I'm like, can you do that? Like, what is the deal? Like the convention's such a huge thing. Like, surely we could just pare it down and make it. I mean, and I know that's a little bit what Rama Drama is, and I've been in touch with them, and like I'm excited to see that side of it as well. Because I have done conventions a long time ago, but more the sci-fi, and it was more. It was fine. It was just a little more personal. I don't know. It was different. You know, Christmas Con was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting to do that one in June and get to see both people I've already met, but also now, so many of the new alumni, which is so exciting because we've got this other thing to bond over outside of just the movies, right? Like people are going to arrive with all their romance university gear, and it's just going to be exciting to see that, just to know that each one of those items is something that we kind of came up with together, but also by wearing it shows that you support all of these causes, and anyway, I don't know. It's also exciting to me.
I have my Romance University pillow on my bed, and I have a necklace,
Oh,
and I got a necklace for my best friend. So we call them
oh,
our best friend.
really?
They're our best friend necklaces.
Oh,
So
so you've ordered stuff.
mhm, I have. I think I got them. I think they arrived about 2 weeks ago. So
How was the process for you from order to receiving it? Was it not bad?
no, not at all.
Okay, good.
I think I got them like I got the shipping email within I think 3 or 4 days
Hmm.
of placing the order, and then I think within a week of that I had them both.
Wow.
They came because they came from two different places. The necklaces from one
Yes.
place and the pillow from another, but
Yes. Yeah.
they only arrived within like 48 hours of each other.
Wow.
So it was
I
pretty
would
good.
love it if it all like came together and went like that's the next step, right? Like, how do
Yeah.
I make it more all together? Because some people buy like 6 items. And the problem is they're coming from different suppliers. So there's confusion there, which that's why I'm like, all right, this is going to cost a lot for people as well. So how do I figure out a way that if you spend a certain amount, shipping is free? And that's why I wanted to keep the buttons part of it too. I'm like, the buttons was the original thing, and I want to continue making those available. Like, how can I get them to everybody? And also, like, you're not just going to buy buttons. It's like a few dollars and then have them shipped. It's going to cost more. So I worked with with my designer, and I call her an assistant, but Eden, she lives in Phoenix, and she's like, well, this is what we can do. And I've done things like this before, but we can do kind of an add-on where you spend a certain amount of dollars, shipping is free, and then you can just add the buttons for free. And I was like, well, put two buttons so they can keep one and give one. So there's always that feeling of like, you know, so I love that the buttons are still a part of it and will always be a part of it. And with each of the launches, I want to be able to come out with a new button design that kind of comes with that limited edition thing, whatever it's going to be. I don't know how many. Like, again, I don't want to overwhelm with products. Since it's only been 2 months, people are like, how many hoodies do I need? But that's why there are so many products. So it's like, well, inevitably you're going to need some mugs, you're going to need a new tumbler, like, and like there's going to be notebooks, there's beach towels. So you feel like at least you're buying things that you need, and you can kind of have all different variations. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's obviously a big hit, and I've had since I shared it on my Instagram story, I've had a few of my girlfriends reach out being like, what is this? So I'm gonna definitely push the Canadians a little bit more, but I've also, between us and everyone else that's going to be listening to this,
Yes.
um, I may or may not have already spoken to some people at Blue Mountain Village about how they would feel about doing a thing there,
Okay.
a Canadian version thing,
Uh-huh.
because I would like and the girls that I met at Rama Drama, we call her we call ourselves the Hallmark Honeys. Something
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
um, are all willing to help. Two of them are Canadian, so and trying to put together like a Canadian fan experience. I want it to feel like people are like in a Hallmark movie.
I
So
think that's amazing. And I mean, Blue Mountain Resort is kind of easy to, to do that, to give that feeling, like that's why I think to happen in a small town or especially the resort like that, and then keep it very, keep it small-ish, it doesn't need to be tens of thousands of people, you just want to keep it like intimate, fun over the weekend. And like you said, you really do come away with new friends, and it's this building of the community. Like you said, you left and like you and Brittany Bristow are friends. Like that doesn't happen. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
know she
yeah,
came
but
running
now
up
we're
to me
friends.
at
Like this
Rama
whole thing.
Drama. She like knew me from social media and like
Oh, that's
ran up
awesome.
to me at Rama Drama like I was the celebrity. And so it was slightly reversed. And then we've just been friends ever since.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I'm gonna consider us friends now.
We
So
are friends. You can consider us friends because we are.
thank you so much. Honestly, I'm just gonna walk around with a giant smile on my face for the rest of the day.
Awesome.
This
Me
was
too.
so much more than I anticipated it would be, and I'm very grateful for you.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I and you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the
Thank you.
rest of the very cold day
I will. I'm going
and
to enjoy
stay
it. Hey, the
warm.
sun is out. That's the good thing.
That is
That's
right, a
always the
little
one
bit of
thing I say. It can be cold here, but at least the sun is out, and that's the important part.
means it'll be warmer in the car.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah. Like a cat, you can stay inside just by the window and at least
that's
get those little
right.
sunbeams. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, and we
Okay.
will
Thank
be
you.
in touch.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.